Yo, it's Famicom again. Got another video showcasing not a haul this time, but instead one manga I've hated this year and two manga that I loved this year in 2023. So you might have seen these three because I've made a post on all three of these books throughout the year on my Instagram. But we have Warashi no Hanashi by Wada Chizu, Houtai Shoujo Kikan by Yumi Sudou, and Lily's Thread by Daredemonai. So, one hate, two love. That's the main theme of this video. So we'll just get started. The first one being Warashi no Hanashi by Wada Chizu. Wada Chizu is a contributor to Axe, and they only have 2 tankobon out at the moment. This is the first one that they put out. The second one I do not have yet, but we'll start off with this. So I went into this book without any expectations at all. There was nothing that told me anything about what to expect in terms of the stories or the characters, but I've seen Wada Chizu before from various Axe covers. So for example, here is issue 123 of Axe, and that is the main character of Warashi no Hanashi. So I believe the title translates to the story of a girl, because I believe Warashi is translated as like little girl or something like that, because the character is an unnamed girl, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, I spotted her from this cover of Axe and got really interested because she has a very cute art style. Here's like an illustration gallery of some of her works. You can also follow her on Twitter and Instagram. She posts regularly on Instagram. But yeah, she has a very cute art style. But you can tell that, you know, there might be some darker topics or themes at play just by looking at her art. And so, going into the story, that's exactly what you get. You have a very cute exterior with her art style, but the story itself can get quite dark, and this is one of the best stories that I've read this year, and probably in general in terms of manga. It's very suited to my taste. So the entire story is following this unnamed girl here, who we start off with a flashback of her walking and her grandma following. So the way this story is structured is that we get a little bit of plot slowly, gradually. Other than that, the chapters are pretty much like chapter by chapter based. You know, every chapter there's a different adventure or event happening for this girl. For example, she meets a little snake, and there's this whole adventure and story about the snake. But the snake does trigger a memory, and that pattern we can see throughout the story. So the premise is that our girl here, she's unnamed because she's not actually alive. She is a spirit bound to the mountain with a Jizo statue. We aren't told why until later in the story, of course, but over the course of the first couple of chapters, our little girl, she just goes around and interacts with all the animals in the area. You know, these little wolf children spirits. So right now, kind of wholesome, quite fun. You know, they're playing with each other. She's helping them, trying to find her mum over here. But as we move on further, we get more and more hints, and you know, some of this foreshadowing and darker imagery start to appear. this here. So gradually we learn that the girl has had quite a tragic past, which I won't spoil too much, but that past had led her to enter the mountain and become a spirit to it. And I should have mentioned as well, at the start of this story, the narration goes through and puts up this question of, you know, with this girl being a spirit, is she cursed or is she free? That sort of thing, right? She's a spirit, but we have no idea whether she was cursed to be stuck on this mountain or whether she wanted to herself. And moving forward, we meet different entities that are quite relevant to the story. The Jizo statue also is quite important as well. Usually, to my knowledge, Jizo statues are supposed to be like symbols of protection for children and travelers, I believe, which definitely makes sense for the story. Right? She also meets another little boy here who he's a normal human boy, but he can only see her. No one else can see her. It's this whole side story where he is quite important as well. But as we go on, darker and darker truths behind the past are revealed. And so throughout the whole story, you're so invested in this girl, why she had to abandon everything and, you know, be bound to this mountain. And it gives you a lot to think about, especially with the ending as well, which I'm not going to spoil too much. But yeah, just to go over it again, because the reason why this is one of the best reads that I've had this year and probably in general is the pacing. The pacing is so well done. The way the memories are interwoven throughout the story. You know, we're starting off with just wholesome stuff, but gradually there's hint by hint, we get more and more of her past to the point where it culminates into a very interesting climax that leaves you thinking a lot. And I think that's what draws me to a lot of stories, is that if they give you the space to think, if they give me the space to, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is like Nejishiki from Tsuge Yoshiharu, or other very surreal stories that leave you in confusion, but at the same time, it's a good sort of confusion. I think this fits it very much, and you have that contrast between cute and dark as well. I'm trying to think of it, if there's any other stories that might be similar. I guess the one that comes to mind, I haven't watched it to be honest, but I guess I've heard Adventure Time is good. You could probably think of it like that. There's another manga called I believe it's Rojica to Hakkasei. No, I'm butchering that. I've got to put it in the description. My bad. There's another manga that is quite similar to this, where it's got a cute exterior and a quite a dark story. I will find the name of that and I'll put it in the description. And yeah, just as a note, I make these videos sort of on the fly because that's how I sort of operate. And sometimes I will forget things or I'll fail to mention things. Usually I'll just put them in the description after. So if you're wondering about anything that I was talking about, normally you can just check down in the description and you'll find extra info there. And there we go. Here is the advert for it. This was a 2018 issue. So quite a recent book actually, quite a recent one. But yeah, hands down, one of the best reads ever. 10 out of 10 for me. Okay, moving on to another 10 out of 10 read. And again, one of my favorite manga ever and favorite mangaka in general. This is called Houtai Shoujo Kikan, which translates to something like bandage girls period or time. or the time of Bandage Girls, these girls, the Bandage Girls, by Yumi Sudou. So, Yumi Sudou, she debuted with this manga titled Ryugu Kyo? No. Ryugu no Kyodai. Yeah, which translates to Wandering Siblings, the Wandering Siblings. Sudou is normally known for her Yuri manga, so her Girls Love manga. But her debut manga wasn't Girls Love. It was following this woman who had just lost her parent, her mum, and she finds and stumbles across these two twins who have also been looking for their parents. So one of my favorite things about Sudou is her character designs. I don't know how to describe it, but all of her character designs are very memorable. Don't know why, and especially in this story, it's a bit shaky, to be honest. This story here, her debut work, is a little bit shaky. It goes all over the place. There's some pacing issues that pop up as well, but overall it's still pretty solid. But yeah, so this was her first debut. Sorry, not first debut, first work. But that wasn't the first work I read for her. This was the first book I read. So it's a collection of Yuri manga. So just a collection of one-shots, all of them being centered on girls' love. And there is a mix of wholesome stories and not so wholesome stories. But every single one of them, how I would describe it as, is that all of them have heart. All of them have heart, and the emotions are very genuine in it. And I gotta correct myself again. This actually isn't. My memory is really bad, but this is actually the second book that I read from her. My bad. Let me pull up the other one that I first read. Here we go. Yeah, you'll probably notice that my memory is not that good, so I'll be making a bit of mistakes, but it's fine if I fix them. Okay, here we go. A 2-volume series by Sudou titled Yume no Hashibashi, which means the end of a dream, I believe. So this is also Girls Love as well, Yuri manga. And it follows these two girls and their journey over the course of their lives from adolescence to old age. And the very unique thing about it is that we start from the present and we go back in time. So these are two characters. So, this is down. What am I doing? That's not the first volume. This is the first volume. There we go. So we actually start off when they're old, in the present day. And the story goes back in time. Here they are, these two here. Goes back in time to explore how their relationship had evolved and how it was affected by the environment they lived in, because girls love, or not girls love, in general LGBTQ relationships were looked down upon. Being a lesbian was looked down upon, and so you see the effect of those societal beliefs on their relationship, which I think is very interesting as well. This is a 10 out of 10 for me, paced perfectly, just 2 volumes. But yeah, going back to this short story collection here. So the titular story, the Bandage, here we go, Bandage Girls period, is the first story here. And it's a wholesome one, right? Despite having the girl in a wheelchair, it is actually quite a wholesome one, because we have our two characters here. She meets her in the hallway, and over the course of a couple of events, she has to take care of her because of some issues at home, and they develop a game where the injured girl sort of acts like a queen, and she is acting as her subject, and they have a lot of fun. They bond, and it ends very, very happily, which is a great start to the story. There they are. So they're just essentially like a roleplay game, but you know, they're disguising their feelings on the writ, but at the same time they do know what they feel for each other. Next, if I were to actually go on to oh yeah, no, let's do another wholesome story. Here we've got one following our main character here, who owes money. She's in debt, and so she's forced to take a job where she has to accompany this girl here as she sleeps. And the reason why is because, well, it's revealed later, but this other character has a fear of being alone and sleeping alone. And over the course of the night, they grow closer and they begin to understand each other. And she explains why she's actually scared of being alone, being at night, and why she's been paying people to, you know, stay beside her during the night. And it is quite sad, but again, it ends very, very wholesomely. Humorous drawing there. Right. But yeah, extremely wholesome again. And there you go. A little peck on the cheek to end the story off. So, 2 wholesome stories starting off. A not so wholesome story coming next. Here we've got one titled Onegai, which means please. A high school girl wakes up in a bathtub in her apartment and recalls her relationship with this model. So they started dating and things were going great for them. But over time, as the model started to get more work out of the place they were living, their relationship started to break apart. Our main character felt like she was just being thrown aside and couldn't really deal with it anymore. And there is a realization that she is stuck in an endless loop of her recalling the betrayal that her girlfriend had inflicted upon her, and everything starts again. It's quite a sad one. It's not outright stated, but you can probably tell what happened to that girl and why there is that infinite loop. You know, yeah, a bit of a sad one, but very emotional. I think for all these stories, no matter how sad or happy they are, the emotions are genuine, as I said before, and that's why I really love this short story collection. So I'll just skip over it because there's quite a few stories. Again, a mix of happy and sad and everything in between. But every story I loved from this collection. It is a great double page spread. And yeah, that is why I believe that it's probably one of the best manga that I've ever read. A short story collection, which doesn't happen too often for me, to be honest. All the manga that I rate highly are normally, longer in length, a couple of volumes in length. But with Yumi Sudou, she's an exception. Just this story collection alone was amazing. So yeah, those 2 were my favorite reads this year. So now we move on to one of the worst reads I had this year. So obviously, no offense to anyone who actually likes this book or the author. These stories were just not to my liking. It's just very opposite to what I enjoy normally. So Lily's Thread by Daredemonai. And so looking at the cover, just from the cover alone, an amazing cover. The color is extremely vibrant in this, and you have a collection of weird monsters along the cover. Right, so this story, this tankobon is a collection of short stories from the mangaka, who I believe all of these stories here were, they weren't serialized. They were put up on the mangaka's Twitter. And that means that all of them are pretty much like only a couple pages long. And that's one of my big criticisms of it, is that all of these stories, or most of these stories, are only, like 4 or 5 pages long. But the mangaka attempts to draw a thread between all of them by creating this overarching plot or premise of a writer, Lily, and her monster friend dog thing. They attempted to connect every story through this added character of Lily, which I feel didn't do the job, to be honest. So that's the first thing. Second thing, coming back to the length, they're just too short to hit. For horror stories, most of them are supposed to be scary. 4 pages can't do it for me. It's a bit hard to actually get me scared. I like the art style though, is the thing. Some of the monsters and the faces drawn, I actually really like. But it's more of just the story and how everything connected that was very lackluster. So here you have Lily and her dog friend. So amazing illustrations, but it just doesn't hit. A little bit too short. And yeah, it's when I say one of the worst reads of this year, it is true. It's just I put a lot of emphasis on characters and a lot of value on characters, and the whole character of Lily didn't really add much to it. I know there are other horror collections that do this sort of thing where it's like the plot is slowly revealed over time, and all of these little horror stories add up to an overall plot somehow, but I personally don't like those stories too much. I can't get invested. That's the only thing. But I'm sure a lot of other people would like this book here. So it's not translated into English. None of the books that I've shown are translated into English, unfortunately. So hopefully down the line, maybe. But I do feel that, if you like, B-grade horror, very short stories that are creepy, then you'll love this. I mean, compare it to, let's say, I forgot the mangaka name, but the mangaka who did like PTSD Radio, Flan no Tane, like Seeds of Anxiety. It's a similar sort of style, but I feel like with PTSD Radio, it's the tone and the atmosphere of everything is a lot more mature than this one here, because it's a little bit inconsistent in this volume, unfortunately. But people have different tastes. I do believe like on Twitter they do have quite a large following, which I'm very happy for, but it's just not for me. So that was 2 amazing reads that I had for this year and 1 not so amazing read for this year. But that's this was just a random idea I came up with, because again, I've been doing like the Instagram thing for over a year now. Over a year, and I've posted up like, I think right now 480 something posts. So a lot of manga that I have in my collection, and just starting off this YouTube channel with 0 videos, I have so much that I can cover. So pretty much my decision is just looking at my shelf and picking out whatever I feel like talking about on the day. So yeah, it might be a little bit impromptu with my videos, but I do enjoy this format of just showcasing books and talking about them at length with no structure in mind. Maybe in the future I can do more structured videos, maybe deep diving into specific stories or mangaka or anything like that. But for now, I think, for me at least, this works fine, and it's fun. It's fun doing this sort of format. But yeah, so I'll add some stuff in the description on extra notes and things for everything. This is how I do it, how I'll do it for going forward. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.